James Trusty, he's former Justice Department prosecutor and IFRA law partner. What is the prosecution's strategy here with Rick Gates?
Well, it's to kind of bury him in the middle. You hope as a prosecutor that the rest of your case is very strong, that the paper trail and the bookkeepers can kind of establish your tax fraud independently. But you want to put Gates in to establish a conspiracy. You want to nail it home, and you hope that somehow his credibility survives the attacks that are coming.
Yeah, I know that you think that Gates could get scorched by the defense. How so?
Well, I mean, look, any cooperating defendant has some built-in cross-examination that comes with that. They're going to basically say you're out to save your own skin, that you've essentially betrayed your friend and confidant and partner by joining Team America and going after them. One of the aggravators here, however, is that apparently in some of the first meetings that Mr. Gates had with the government, he continued to be dishonest. It's not the first time that's happened, believe me. But that adds some additional baggage because the cross-examination really ramps up and talks about how you lied to these agents, you lied to these prosecutors, but they still want you on their team. And so you kind of put the prosecution on trial a little bit when the prosecutor has a cooperator with a track history of lying to his face. With
the accountant that Peter Doocy was reporting on, she testified on Friday. She said that she felt like it was wrong, but she did it anyway. Is she in any sort of trouble?
Well, it sounds like not. I mean, one of the tactics you can do as a prosecutor is just basically say, look, I'm viewing you as a witness. I'm not making you any promises, and you get up on the stand and tell the truth. The person gets up on the witness stand, and they're kind of hard to impeach by cross-examination because they say I could still be charged. And they're kind of twisting in the wind a little bit, but it gives them some credibility. But I know there's a number that were immunized. She might have been one of them.
How awkward is it for the defendant to be there, Paul Manafort, and then somebody like Rick Gates? They were colleagues for a long time, partners, and now obviously on opposite sides of this very high-stakes trial. How awkward is that for the lawyers that are in the room as well?
Well, I mean, look, that's, again, pretty common in federal cases to see cooperators who had some sort of pre-existing relationship with the defendant. So they're probably not going to give each other a little fist bump or high five as they pass. But I wouldn't expect a lot of theater either. Most likely Manafort's attorneys have said, do not react, do not do anything but take your notes and let him do his thing.
I want to change topics really quickly because this trial we're talking about is not about collusion in any way. The story, though, that the White House and President Trump's lawyers are still thinking about whether they would work with Mueller to find some accommodation for an interview of some sort or written answers. Rudy Giuliani, the president's top lawyer, saying that they will make that decision in the next day and a half or so. But listen also to the other Trump lawyer, Jay Sekulow, talking about the Donald Trump Jr. meeting at Trump Tower and how he says he had wrong information. I want to get your take on this. Watch.
There was a lot of information that was gathering, and as my colleague Rudy Giuliani said, I had bad information at that time. I made a mistake in my statement. As far as when did we correct it, the important part is the information that we've shared with the Office of Special Counsel. I'm not going to get into the details, but we were very clear as to the situation involving that trip and the statements that were made to the New York Times.
Is there anything at all to be done or said about the Trump team saying they had bad information from the president's son?
Yeah, you know, I think their message has been so scattered that it's kind of hard to take any of it all that seriously at this point. I mean, the message that comes out has been very inconsistent from the White House. I understand it's a pretty difficult situation in terms of your client being on Twitter all day long, but they need to just maybe have a single message and convey that consistently and not overreact.
James, are you new here? I don't think that's going to happen. Let me ask you about one other thing, because you have worked in the government. You've worked on prosecutions. Tell me about the use of false statements and how it applies here in this case and how maybe it didn't apply to Hillary Clinton and her team.
Well, I think that's a real interesting dynamic here. You know, 1001, 18 U.S.C. 1001 is the section that's charged for false statements to law enforcement. And in the OIG report dealing with the Hillary Clinton email probe, they specifically talked about how they knew witnesses were lying, but James Comey himself specifically said, we're just not going to waste our time doing these 1001s. We're either going to get a lead target or we're not. Well, somehow that's completely reversed here. In the case that we're talking about now, where it's the Trump probe, 1001s are being given out like Pez dispensers. I mean, there's a whole slew of them. And I think it's an unusual kind of use of discretion for them to swear it off in one high-profile public corruption investigation, but to use it quite freely in the other one.
It is curious indeed. James Trusty, thank you.
Sure. Thanks, Dana.